The city was busy as always, cars moving fast, people rushing to work, and the sound of engines filled the air. In one corner of the city stood a small garage, old, dusty, and hidden between tall buildings. Inside that garage worked Marcus, a quiet and humble mechanic with hands always covered in oil, but a heart full of dreams. Marcus was known for his honesty and kindness. He never cheated a customer, never charged more than needed, and always smiled, even when life wasn't easy. He didn't have much, just his small house, his old radio, and his love for fixing broken things. But deep down, he always wished for a miracle, something that could change his life forever. That miracle came one hot afternoon. A black luxury car stopped outside his garage. It was shining like a diamond in the sunlight. But something was wrong. Smoke was coming out from under the hood. Marcus wiped his hands and walked toward it. When the window rolled down, his eyes widened. Sitting inside was Clara Bennett, famous CEO of Bennett Motors, one of the richest and most powerful women in the city. People only saw Clara on TV, walking red carpets, giving speeches, or surrounded by cameras. But today, she looked angry and tired. She stepped out, wearing her business suit and expensive heels, and looked around the small old garage with a frown. "Can someone fix this mess?" she said sharply. "I have an important meeting in 1 hour." Marcus nodded quietly. "I'll take a look, ma'am." Clara crossed her arms, clearly not trusting him. This place looks like it's from another century," she laughed. "Do you even know how to touch a car like this?" Marcus didn't reply. He just lifted the hood and looked inside. The engine was complicated, new model, it's full of sensors and special parts, the kind of car only company experts usually touched. But Marcus didn't step back. He took a deep breath and started working. Clara watched him for a few minutes, then smirked. "All right, Mr. Mechanic," she said in a playful but proud tone. "If you can fix this engine in 1 hour, I'll marry you." The workers in the nearby shop laughed. Even Marcus looked up, a bit surprised. But Clara wasn't serious. She just said it as a joke. Never imagining what those words would mean later, Marcus smiled softly and said, "Then I better not waste time, ma'am." He bent down again, his hands moving fast and confident. Sweat rolled down his face. The sound of metal and tools echoed in the air. Every minute passed like a heartbeat. People started gathering around, watching inside the car. The engine looked dead. No power, no response. Even the company mechanics had failed before bringing it here. But Marcus kept working, checking wires, feeling the temperature, listening closely. It was like the car was speaking to him in a secret language. Clara tapped her watch. 10 minutes left, she said, half smiling. She thought he would give up any second, but Marcus didn't. He stayed calm. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "machines just need patience. Like people." Finally, he closed the hood and stepped back. "Try now," he said. Clara raised an eyebrow, slid into the driver's seat, and turned the key. For a second, nothing happened. Then vroom. The engine roared to life, louder and smoother than before. Everyone around gasped. Clara's eyes widened. She couldn't believe it. The same car her own company engineers couldn't. Repair was now working perfectly, fixed by a man from a small, forgotten garage. Clara stepped out slowly, looking at Marcus with a mix of shock and curiosity. "How did you—" she began, but her words stopped halfway. Marcus just smiled, wiped his hands, and said softly, "You said you'd marry me, ma'am, for the first time?" Clara had no answer. The crowd laughed again, but this time, the laughter had a strange silence behind it, because deep down something had just changed. She didn't know it yet. But this moment, this joke would soon turn into a story that the whole world would talk about. That night, Clara Bennett couldn't sleep. She sat on her soft white couch, looking out from the window of her big glass apartment. The city lights sparkled below like a sea of gold. But her mind was far away, still thinking about that mechanic from the small garage. Marcus, the name kept echoing in her head. She didn't know why. He was just a simple man covered in grease and dust, but there was something in his calm eyes. Something she couldn't explain. How did he fix it? she whispered to herself. Her company's best engineers had failed to repair that car. Yet he did it in less than an hour, with no fancy tools. It didn't make sense. Clara tried to focus on her upcoming meeting, but her thoughts kept going back to that moment when the engine started and the way Marcus had smiled. It wasn't pride. It was peace. Like a man who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The next morning, her assistant entered the office. "Good morning, ma'am. The reporters are waiting, and your design team wants final approval for the new model." Clara nodded but wasn't really listening. "Get me the report," she said, pretending to read, though her mind was somewhere else. Finally, she stood up suddenly. "Cancel my afternoon meeting," she said. "Ma'am?" Her assistant looked shocked. "I need to visit someone." The sun was high when Clara's black car stopped again at Marcus's garage. The same old sign hung above the door. The same smell of oil filled the air. Marcus was working under another car, humming a soft tune. When she stepped out, his wrench slipped from his hand. "Ma'am?" he said, surprised. Clara smiled faintly. "Do you fix engines only once? Or do you offer after service too?" Marcus chuckled. "For you, ma'am, maybe I'll make an exception." Clara looked around. "This place. You work here alone?" "Yes," he said simply. "My father built this garage. After he passed away, I kept it running. It's not much, but it's honest work." Clara touched one of the tools on the table. It was old, scratched, but carefully cleaned. "You could work for a big company. Why stay here?" Marcus wiped his hands and replied, "Some people chase money, ma'am. I just like seeing broken things come back to life." His words hit her harder than she expected. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she smiled again, this time softly. "You're different, Marcus," he shrugged. "Maybe, but so are you." They talked for a while about cars, about work, about life. Clara found herself laughing, something she rarely did. The woman who ruled boardrooms and made million-dollar deals suddenly felt like a simple person again. As she prepared to leave, she said jokingly, "So, Mr. Mechanic, do you always fix engines or hearts too?" Marcus smiled. "Only if the heart is made of metal, ma'am." Clara laughed and got into her car. But just as she started the engine, something unexpected happened. A sudden blast of smoke rose from under the hood again. Marcus rushed forward, alarmed. "Wait, stop the car." She turned it off quickly. "What happened?" she asked, worried. He lifted the hood, the same engine he'd fixed yesterday. His eyes narrowed. "Something didn't look right. This isn't normal," he said seriously. "Someone's been here. Someone touched this engine after me." Clara frowned. "What do you mean?" He pointed to a loose wire and a small scratch near the main connector. "This wasn't my work. Someone wanted this car to fail." For a second, they both stood silent. The noise of the city faded. "Are you saying—" she began, her voice low. "Yes," Marcus said slowly. "This isn't just a broken car anymore. Someone's trying to send you a message." Clara looked around, suddenly feeling a strange chill. She realized this was no longer about a joke or a challenge, it was something far deeper. As Marcus lowered the hood, he met her eyes. "If you trust me," he said calmly, "let me find out who did this." For the first time in her life, the powerful CEO nodded silently, not as a boss, but as someone who needed help. And just like that, a new bond began between the woman who had everything and the man who had nothing to lose. The next morning, the garage was quieter than usual. Marcus stood alone, staring at Clara's car. The engine looked fine now, but he knew something wasn't right. The loose wire. The strange scratch. Those things didn't happen by mistake. He ran his hand over the smooth metal surface, thinking deeply. Whoever had done this new cars very well, it wasn't random. It was a warning. Just then, he heard the sound of high heels outside. Clara Bennett stepped into the garage again, this time wearing a simple jacket and sunglasses. She didn't look like the rich CEO today. She looked like someone searching for answers. "Good morning, Marcus," she said softly. "Did you find out anything?" He nodded slightly. "Not yet, but I have a feeling someone close to you doesn't want you to be safe." Clara frowned. That's impossible. I don't have enemies. Marcus looked at her. Everyone with power has enemies, ma'am. For a moment she said nothing. The smell of oil filled the air, and a car horn honked outside. Can you find out who did this? She asked finally. Marcus smiled faintly. Engines don't lie. I'll find the truth. He opened his old metal toolbox and took out a small magnifying light. Carefully, he began checking each bolt and wire. Then he found a tiny mark, almost invisible, burned near the fuel line. This isn't factory work, Marcus said. Someone used a different type of tool, one I've only seen in luxury workshops. Clara's eyes widened. You mean, from my own company? Marcus nodded slowly. That's what it looks like. Clara took a deep breath. She'd always believed her company was loyal to her. But suddenly, she remembered the argument from last week. Her vice president, Eric, disagreed with her decision to close one of the factories. He had shouted, saying she didn't understand the business anymore. Could it be him? She shook her head, trying to focus. Marcus, can you prove it? He looked at her seriously. If I can check one of your company garages, I'll know for sure. Later that day, Clara made a call. Within an hour, they were inside one of Bennett Motors' private workshops. A large, modern place, filled with shining tools and uniformed workers. Everyone stopped and stared as the CEO entered with a man wearing a grease-stained shirt. Ma'am, this area is restricted, said the head engineer nervously. Clara's voice was calm but strong. Not anymore. Let him check whatever he needs. Marcus walked around quietly, observing the tools. Then he stopped in front of a workbench and picked up a small electric torch. On its side was the same burn mark he had seen on Clara's engine. He looked up. This is the same tool. Whoever used this was here. The room went silent. Suddenly, a young mechanic near the corner dropped a wrench. His hands shook. Marcus noticed it immediately, Marcus said firmly. Did you work on the CEO's car last week? The man froze. Clara stepped forward. Answer him. The mechanic swallowed hard. I only checked the oil, ma'am. Mr. Eric told me to look at the engine. He said it was urgent. Eric, Clara repeated, her voice cold. The mechanic nodded, trembling. He said not to tell anyone. Marcus and Clara exchanged a look. The truth had started to unfold. When they left the workshop, the sky was turning orange. The wind was cool, but Clara felt heavy inside. So, it's someone from your own company, Marcus said quietly. Clara nodded, her jaw tight. I trusted Eric for 10 years. He was like family. Marcus looked at her kindly. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers, ma'am. It comes from those we protect. Clara turned to face him. Why are you helping me, Marcus? You don't even know me. He smiled gently. Because everyone deserves to know the truth, rich or poor. For the first time, Clara didn't see him as just a mechanic. She saw him as someone real, someone with strength and heart. And as they drove away into the fading sunset, both of them knew this was no longer just about a car. It was about trust, betrayal, and the strange destiny that had brought their worlds together. The next morning, Clara Bennett stood in her office, staring out at the city skyline. The tall glass walls reflected her own face, confident, strong, but now full of confusion. She had built her empire on trust, yet that trust was cracking. Her mind repeated the mechanic's words again and again. It's someone close to you. All the signs pointed toward Eric Dawson, her vice president and oldest business partner. He had helped her build Bennett Motors from the ground up. He was like family. But why would he want to harm her? Clara clenched her hands. If this is true, I'll find out myself, she whispered. She picked up her phone. Tell Eric I want to see him now, she ordered. Eric arrived a few minutes later. His usual confident smile on his face. He was tall, dressed in a perfect suit, with eyes that could charm anyone in a room. Clara, he said warmly. You wanted to see me? Clara turned to face him. Yes, sit down. He raised an eyebrow. You sound serious. I am, she said coldly. My car almost exploded yesterday. For a moment, Eric froze, just for a second, then quickly smiled again. What? That's terrible. Are you all right? I'm fine, she said, watching his face closely. But But the mechanic who fixed it found something strange. Someone had tampered with the engine. From one of our company workshops? Eric's smile slowly faded. That's impossible. Clara crossed her arms. The same tool used in our workshop left a mark on my engine. And one of your men admitted that you sent him to check my car. Okay, his eyes narrowed. You're listening to that grease-covered man. Clara, he's manipulating you. Her voice rose slightly. That grease-covered man saved my life. Maybe you should thank him instead of lying to me. Eric's face turned red. You're choosing a random mechanic over me? Over years of loyalty. Loyalty, she repeated bitterly. If loyalty means trying to kill me, then yes, I'm choosing him. Eric stood up, angry. You're making a mistake, Clara. Without me, this company will fall apart. You can't run it alone. Clara looked him straight in the eye. Watch me. He hesitated for a moment, then gave a cold smile. You've changed, Clara. That mechanic? He's made you weak. Then he walked out, slamming the door behind him. Later that evening, Clara drove to Marcus's garage again. The sky was dark and full of clouds. The smell of rain mixed with gasoline as Marcus worked under another car. When he saw her, he quickly stood up. Everything all right, ma'am? Clara shook her head. No, you were right. It's Eric. He tried to play innocent, but I could see it in his eyes. He's hiding something big. Marcus nodded slowly. He's dangerous then. You should be careful, Clara sighed. I built this company with him. I don't understand why he'd do this. Marcus looked at her gently. Sometimes greed changes people. Or maybe he thinks you don't need him anymore. Clara looked at him, her voice soft. And what about you, Marcus? Why do you help me like this? You could walk away. He smiled slightly. Because I've seen people lose everything they love to lies. I don't want that to happen to you. A small silence filled the air. The only sound was the distant thunder rolling above them. Clara smiled faintly. You speak like someone who's been through a lot. Marcus looked away, his voice low. Maybe one day I'll tell you. Before she could ask more, a bright flash of lightning hit nearby, followed by a loud boom. The lights in the garage flickered, then went out. In that moment of darkness, Clara's phone buzzed. A new message appeared on her screen. It was from an unknown number. You should have listened to me, Clara. This isn't over. Her hands trembled as she showed it to Marcus. He looked at the screen, his jaw tightening. Looks like Eric isn't done yet, he said quietly. But neither are we. Outside, the rain began to fall, slow at first, then heavy, as if the city itself knew that something much bigger was coming, and deep inside that small garage. Two lives were about to change forever. The rain poured all night. Marcus stayed awake in his small room behind the garage, staring at the message on Clara's phone. You should have listened to me. The words burned in his mind. He had seen threats like this before, too many times. They were never just words. At dawn, he stepped outside. The streets were wet, the sky gray. He pulled his jacket tighter and looked at the city lights fading into morning. Something inside him told him this wasn't over. Meanwhile, Clara sat in her office with dark circles under her eyes. Her company board members were already whispering. Eric had begun spreading rumors saying she was unstable. She was making decisions based on a street mechanic's advice. Oh, she slammed a file shut. Let them talk, she muttered. But deep inside, she felt fear. When the door opened, Marcus was standing there, soaked from the rain. Marcus, she said in surprise. You didn't have to come. I had to, he replied. That message means danger. You can't ignore it, Clara sighed. I'm not afraid of Eric. Marcus looked straight at her. Then you should be. He's not just angry, he's planning something. She stared at him for a moment. You sound like you've seen this before. He paused. I have. She leaned forward. What do you mean? Marcus looked down, hesitating. Before I opened this garage, I worked as an engineer, not here, but in Detroit. I was part of a small team that designed engines for a defense project. One night, our factory caught fire. They said it was an accident. But it wasn't. Clara listened carefully. They blamed me, Marcus continued. Said I caused it. I lost my job, my reputation, everything. But the truth is, someone else did it for money. A man from my team betrayed us. He sold our designs to a rival company and tried to burn the proof. Clara looked shocked. And you never cleared your name? Marcus shook his head. I didn't have power. I only had my skills. So I walked away from that world and started fixing cars. It was the only way to survive. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Clara said softly, You're not just a mechanic, Marcus. You're an engineer, a genius who was wronged. He smiled weakly. Maybe, but I learned something. Power without honesty destroys people. And I see that same danger in your company now. Clara nodded slowly. Then help me stop it. Marcus's eyes hardened. I will, but we have to be smart. Eric won't stop at messages. He'll strike where it hurts most, your reputation. That afternoon, the news broke. Bennett Motors under investigation for engine fraud. Reporters surrounded the company gates. Cameras flashed as Clara stepped out, holding her head high. But inside, she was trembling. Eric, she whispered, reading the headlines. He had leaked false documents to the press, claiming she approved dangerous engine designs. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown message. You built your empire on my back. Now, I'll burn it down. Marcus stood beside her, reading the words. He's losing control. That means he's scared. Clara looked at him, desperate. What do we do now? Marcus's voice was calm but firm. We fight back. And we show him that truth can't be destroyed. That night, Marcus returned to his garage and opened an old metal box. Inside were faded papers, photographs, and a USB drive, the one piece of proof from his old life. He connected it to his computer and began typing fast. Old security codes, company reports, blueprints all came alive on the screen. In one folder, something caught his eye. A file name, Bennett_Motors_Contract_Eric D.docx. He opened it, and there it was. Eric had made secret deals years ago with the same rival company that had destroyed Marcus's career. He took a deep breath and whispered, So it was you all along. He copied the files onto a drive and looked out the window. The rain had stopped. The city was silent again, waiting tomorrow. He would expose the truth, and this time, no one would silence him. The night was quiet, but Marcus's heart was loud. The USB drive in his hand felt heavy, like the truth itself was fighting to stay hidden. Outside, thunder rolled again, just like the night he had lost everything years ago. But this time, he wasn't alone. At dawn, he drove straight to Bennett Motors headquarters. Clara was already there, waiting in the conference room. She looked tired but strong, her hair tied back, eyes sharp. Did you find anything? She asked. Marcus placed the drive on the table. More than I wanted. Eric has been working with your competitors for years. He sold your designs, leaked false data, and tried to ruin you the same way someone ruined me. Clara's lips parted. So that's why he wanted me gone. Marcus nodded. He didn't just want control of your company. He wanted revenge for being second to you. She clenched her fists. We expose him today. By 9 a.m., the boardroom was full. Reporters waited outside. Cameras flashed behind the glass doors. Eric entered last, smiling as if nothing was wrong. Clara, he said smoothly, I heard you called a meeting. I hope it's not another drama about that mechanic friend of yours. Clara stood up. It's about truth, Eric. Something you don't understand. She turned to Marcus. Play the file. Marcus connected the drive. The big screen lit up emails, contracts, payment records. Eric's name appeared again and again, signed under secret deals with rival companies. Then came a voice recording. Once she's gone, Bennett Motors will be mine. The room went silent. Eric's face changed from arrogance to panic. This is fake, he shouted. You can't prove anything. Marcus looked at him calmly. Every signature matches. Every date aligns. I checked it twice. Board members began whispering. Cameras clicked outside. Clara stepped closer. You betrayed me, Eric. You didn't just try to destroy my company. You tried to destroy me. He backed away, sweating. You don't know what you're doing, Clara. You'll regret this. I already did, she said coldly. The day I trusted you. Security guards moved forward. Eric tried to escape, but they stopped him. The media burst through the doors, microphones flying. Is it true, Ms. Bennett? Your vice president was behind the fraud? Clara took a deep breath. Yes. And the man who exposed him is the one everyone laughed at, a mechanic named Marcus Reed. Cameras flashed, but he stayed quiet, humble as always. Hours later, when the chaos was over, Clara and Marcus stood outside the building. The sky was bright again, the storm finally gone. You did it, she said softly. We did it, Marcus corrected. You stood up for what's right, Clara smiled. You know, when I met you, I thought you were just another man trying to impress me. I chuckled. And now? Now I see you're the man who fixed more than an engine. You fixed my faith. Marcus looked at her for a moment. And you fixed mine, ma'am. She laughed lightly. You can stop calling me ma'am now, he smiled. Habit. They both stood in silence, watching the sunlight hit the wet streets. For the first time in years, Marcus felt free. No lies, no fear, just peace. Clara turned to him. You remember that joke I made? About marrying you if you fixed my car? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Of course. Hard to forget. She looked at him playfully. Well, you didn't just fix the car. You fixed everything. Maybe I owe you more than I thought. He laughed softly. Careful, Clara. People might start believing it. She smiled. Let them. Weeks later, Bennett Motors released a new car model, designed by Marcus Reed himself. The press called it the Phoenix, because it rose from fire and lies to shine brighter than ever. As Marcus watched the first car roll out of the factory, Clara stood beside him. Looks like the start of something new, she said. He nodded. Or maybe the end of something old. They smiled at each other. The city glowing behind them, two people from different worlds, bound by truth, courage, and a promise born from a broken engine. And somewhere in that quiet moment, it felt like destiny had finally kept its word.